Hi guys, welcome back to Nairobi Legal Insights. Today I'm introducing a new unit which is conveyancing, and as part of this introduction we're going to be looking at the three major interests in land. Remember that if you are a person who is watching Nairobi Legal Insights for the first time, please consider subscribing so that you receive notifications every single time I'm going to be posting a new video on conveyancing in Kenya. And also don't forget to follow us on our Twitter handles for active engagement. Before we go into the details of conveyancing, I want us to first break down the term conveyancing so that we understand it. Now, by analyzing the three key elements, we are going to be in a position to understand what does conveyancing mean. Now, the first element to analyze is an instrument, and by instrument, what I mean, this is a legal document. The second element is the term conveying. When we say conveying, what we mean is that interest in land moves from one person to another by use of an instrument, and this is the instrument we talked about. Remember, this is a legal document. The third element to analyze is that this interest is in land. So the interest in land moves from one person to another by use of an instrument, and that instrument is a legal document. Basically, that is what the definition of conveyancing entails. As a student of conveyancing, there are certain things you need to note from the onset, and the first being that conveyancing is concerned with the following things you can see on your screen. Now, the subject in this conversation is land, and it is the interest in land that is going to be transferred from one person to another. However, again, we must note that there might be certain impediments to this interest. An example would be that if someone owns a house and they maybe lease it out to a tenant for a period of 1 year, then in that case, that tenant will end up having an interest in that particular house for that given period of time. So that becomes an impediment to the interest that the owner of the house has. So the other thing we need also to appreciate is that we're going to be discussing about the instrument of transfer, and remember, this instrument of transfer must be registered, and also we might have instances whereby this instrument of transfer has not been registered, and you're going to be able to understand what are the repercussions of you maybe having an instrument of transfer and failing to register it as far as conveyancing is concerned. There are three major interests in land, and the first one is ownership. And just use an example here. Maybe Rogers owns 10 acres of land in Muthaiga. The other interest in land that Rogers could have is being a tenant or having a lease. An example would be that Rogers has leased out a piece of land for a period of 10 years. And the last interest in land is a security or a charge. Now, as far as security or a charge is concerned, maybe Rogers has borrowed money and he has given out a security. And the proper definition of a charge is that this is an interest in land securing the payment of money, meaning that the bank will actually have an interest in Rogers's piece of land until he has paid the money that he borrowed from the bank. So it is very critical that you understand these three major interests in land because conveyancing is concerned with the transfer of these interests from one person to another. Having understood the three major interests in land, Rogers could choose to transfer his interest in land, which is ownership, by selling that piece of land to someone else. The other interest in land, which is security, can be effected by a charge or a mortgage when the owner of land actually transfers that interest to the lender. In this case, maybe I've borrowed money and I've transferred the interest in my piece of land by a charge or a mortgage, and the lender ends up having interest in that particular piece of land. When it comes to a lease, I can go ahead to transfer interest in my property by actually giving the interest that I had in that property to a tenant. This was a brief introduction to conveyancing law in Kenya, and in our next video, we're going to be looking at what you should know before buying land, basically looking at the questions to ask when it comes to a sale transaction in matters land. Do not forget to subscribe to Nairobi Legal Insights so that you receive notifications every single time we're going to be posting a new video on conveyancing. Thank you.